Where in the world are you at this moment?
I am located in Bogota, Colombia, at the tip of South America.
Oh, and how is life in lockdown over there?
Well, it's been rough. We've been in lockdown. This is our seventh, 8 week, I think. So it's been already. And we are supposed to go until May 11th. But
Oh my goodness.
in all reality, I think what's happening is that they're going to keep extending it.
Wow. Do you believe that it's going to go on longer than that?
I do. I think that we're going to be here probably mid-June, end of June. That's my guess. Today, they have been letting some people go out. So construction workers and manufacturing workers are allowed to go back to work. And as of today, people can exercise outdoors, which is progress. We couldn't go outside for anything other than grocery shopping till today. But starting today, we can go and exercise outside for an hour between 5 and 8 in the morning. So in some ways, they're loosening up some of the regulations, which is good. I think people need that. Otherwise, mental health is going to just, be bad.
Yeah. And I think we're very much so. We've got two pandemics going on right now. We've got the coronavirus and we've got an anxiety and a depression epidemic that's going to be of catastrophic. It's going to be unmeasurable. And the amount of people that are self-medicating, predominantly in Scotland, with alcohol and drugs. A local gas station, a local petrol station I was in, and they said their fuel sales have went down by 30%, but their cigarette and alcohol sales have went up by 70%.
That's crazy. Well, people are trying to cope. We're not beings that were designed to be confined, let alone for so long. And what I tell my colleagues is that we're pretty much in prison and we're going to be released. We're like prisoners. We're just, doing our time and we have to readapt once we go out. But
absolutely.
I've seen a surge of a dramatic increase of suicides here, alcohol consumption, substance abuse, household violence has climbed through the roof. It's really bad. And, I was working prior to the quarantine, I was working with clients with trauma. And fortunately, we've been able to do some online sessions because otherwise, I don't know how they would be dealing with it. And probably some of them would be considering hurting themselves.
So what advice would you be giving for people that are listening right now that are in lockdown?
That's a good question. I tell people basic things, and the first thing I tell them is don't watch the news as often. If you're going to watch the news, whether it's written news or the radio or television, just do it once a day to catch up to what's going on, but avoid watching the news constantly, because the one thing that the media does is bombard you with fear. And, the first thing you see is the word coronavirus. And it's so ingrained in our mind now that our limbic systems are just going bananas, man. It's just insane. So the first thing I tell people is don't watch the news. And what I do with my mobile, I shut it down and I only turn it on to talk to my parents and to see if I'm getting messages from my clients. That's the only thing I'm doing. And stay away from any kind of media, social media, and the news, stuff like that. As I was saying, as of today, we can go exercise outside. So I recommend people exercise because it makes a tremendous difference. Mm-hmm. I have an elliptic machine back there that I'm using, but I'm considering going, once or twice a week, going outside and jogging. If we're not, talking to other people and we're keeping social and physical distancing, we need to see other people. It just because it feels like it's a zombie apocalypse. It's the end of the world. and it needs that stimulation. We need to see a tree. We need to see a person walking a dog. Even if we're waving from the other side of the street, we need that. The brain needs that. And and nutrition. It's a very easy time to eat a lot of carbs and sugars and put on that weight. And so I advise people that they keep a healthy diet and they refrain from eating, which is really hard because when you're confined and there's so much uncertainty going on, you have that limbic system and you have, all that cortisol being secreted into your bloodstream that you're going to get hungry for anything that's sugary or a carb. So it's very hard to keep a diet, but it's a good time to do it, and it's a good time for self-reflection and self-knowledge. So I have used this time to get to know myself, and I'm sure you have too. I mean, I know some of your story and the progress you've made. So, it's annoying. It's very frightening. It's upsetting, but it's a good time to make some good changes too.
So you work with neurofeedback and you work with a lot of trauma. You work with a lot of clients with trauma.
Yeah, I do. And I also use a technique called brain spotting, which I learned about 4 years ago, and I really love. And I use it in combination with neurofeedback. And I've seen miracles really in front of my eyes with people with severe trauma and long lasting get better rather quickly. And fortunately, we have technology and we can use it to help people heal. And I've been doing some brain spotting sessions with my trauma clients, and it's been helping tremendously for them to cope and get through this more efficiently. Because one of the things is that sorry, I didn't hear that.
It's a wonderful tool, isn't it?
It is.
Brain spotting.
It is a very wonderful tool. It's magnificent. The things you can do, and being a recipient of it myself, I can attest to the profound changes that you experience. It's life-changing. Yeah. And with the confinement, people are gonna get in touch with previous traumas that are, have not been fully resolved. And I think tools like brain spotting are helping a great deal. And I'm really happy that I'm getting to help people even in this current situation.
I trained in brain spotting maybe 7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And 2013, I trained in brain spotting, and I loved it. I remember one day in my office, I'd been using it, and I was using little stickers on the wall for each individual. And when I went in the next morning, that was the story, the part I missed. When I went into my office the next morning, and I hadn't cleared the little stickers off the wall, the whole wall was like a constellation of blue and yellow and green, and purple stickers all over the wall.
Right.
Still laugh when I think of that. So you're talking about the limbic system. So for a lot of people, they might not even know what the limbic system is. So maybe we could talk a little bit about what that actually means.
Well, yeah, the limbic system is actually it's formed of different structures, such as the hippocampus and the amygdala, which are important for memory and survival. And there's two main structures that I always mention. One is your hippocampus, which is important because that's your biographical, your biography. Pretty much every component of your life history, it's going to be stored over there. So a lot of your life memories have to do with that. But it's also very important because this is where memory takes place. Memory and learning consolidation take place in the hippocampus. And it's also where you get your neurogenesis, is where your brain makes and sprouts new neurons, so you can stay smart, sharp, and young. And when you have a cortisol hormone, the cortisol is going to go to the hippocampus and is going to brain not only to make new neurons but also to remember and learn new things. So that's why stress and trauma affect memory so greatly. And then you have the amygdala, which is It's about the size of a peanut. It's a very small but very powerful structure in the brain, which whose work is to store everything that's emotional. So your emotional memories, particularly your bad memories, are stored there. And what the limbic system does is activate what you call the fight or flight response. Meaning, when your life is threatened somehow, your first option is always to flee, to escape the situation. Whether it's a predator or somebody trying to hurt you or a natural disaster, the first thing your brain is going to tell you to do is to run and escape and make a break for it. Now, if we don't get the option to escape, the second option is to fight. So we're going to fight that, the menace. We're going to fight whatever is threaten us with all our might. And sometimes we can neither escape nor fight, and that's when we get into the freezing response. And somewhat with the confinement, that's what we're experiencing. We're not able to fight it because we don't have a treatment, we don't have a vaccine for it. And the best way we're escaping it now is by staying home. But the uncertainty is making us very scared. Survival mode. We're surviving right now. We're trying not to get infected with the virus. And if we become infected with the virus, the next thing is, well, let's make sure we have a strong immune system. So your limbic system and everybody's limbic system around the world is on high alert. And your amygdala is like a guard. It's like a sentry who's on guard and is looking for threats. Exactly. It's like the queen's guard, if you will. And your amygdala is on guard, and right now all of our amygdalas are doing overtime because we don't know what's going to happen. We hear news and we hear the virus is doing this, the virus is doing that. We thought it was it was lethal for people over a certain age with certain conditions. Now we're seeing that it's not so the case, that healthy people can get severely ill and can die too. So the realization that we could get infected and we could die from it, it's keeping our brain on high alert 24/7, literally. And what that does, it makes you secrete cortisol, which causes inflammation, makes you more hungry, makes you more prone to eat sugars and carbohydrates. And therefore, techniques like brain spotting and heart rate variability help calm down the amygdala. So it's telling the amygdala to stay alert, but not to overdo it. That's why people eat a lot. That's why people cannot sleep well. And it's our limbic system is that guard being on high alert. And so if we don't do things such as exercising and eating well, we're not going to help ourselves. The one thing I like about exercise is that exercise helps the brain release something called BDNF, which is it's a protein that helps with neuronal growth. Now, BDNF it's secreted in the hippocampus, the same area where cortisol goes and kills your neurons. So BDNF will help you make new neurons, will make you help you stay happier and more calm. But at the same time, it helps neutralize cortisol. So moving and exercising, it's crucial right now. I cannot stress that point enough. And people nowadays, we have gyms everywhere. We have apps. We have options we didn't have 10 years ago. And ironically, people are not exercising more. They're exercising less. So I would hope that with this, people would understand how important exercising and staying positive is.
So BDNF is brain-derived neurotropic factor. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and it's a growth factor that helps you make new neurons. So when you exercise, one of the reasons you feel happy and you feel really smart and you can focus more and you feel younger, it's because the BDNF is being secreted. So it's helping your hippocampus sprout new neurons that are going to go to other areas of your brain, and I'm going to keep you protected from things like Parkinson's and dementia and depression and anxiety, and the list goes on and on. And what triggers it is movement. So if you go out for a brisk walk or you do mid to high level cardio, you're gonna get the BDNF going. And what that's gonna make you is gonna make you less prone to depression, less prone to anxiety. Is gonna help you sleep better. and it's going to put you in a more positive state of mind, because that's very, very important right now.
So the cortisol that's being released from the fear, which is all around us, the fear of the virus, the fear of employment, the fear of money, the fear for family. And also, I'm guessing that because of the isolation, which is not normal for us to be isolated, that actually hurts the system. You know, we're supposed to be cuddling and hugging one another and loving one another. And now we're isolated. That isolation, I'm guessing, would be bringing about a level of cortisol as well, because it's completely not natural not to be around people.
Yeah, it is very unnatural, and what you're saying is absolutely true. You know, we're social beings. We were designed or created to be social, and you know, every time you hug somebody, you kiss somebody, even you shake somebody's hand, you get to release oxytocin and all these chemicals that are good for you. And I think one of the mistakes that the media and our leaders have made is calling it social distancing. We should have called it physical distancing, because social distancing, people are taking it literally. And you know, you walk down the street and people don't wave hi anymore. People don't even hold eye contact anymore. I'm walking down the street and I have people coming my way and they just jump to the other side of the street and they don't look at me. And it's because we don't know who's carrying the virus. We don't know how infectious it is. We don't know how we can get it. And therefore, we're suspicious of everybody, you know, even our, sometimes our own relatives and loved ones. And I think the media and social media has played a huge role, because the constant bombardment of fear has made us very, very weary and paranoid to a degree. And of course, you know, if we're not able to hug and kiss, that's very detrimental, because that's our very essence. I think that's what makes us human and differentiates us from other species, and that's what makes us very special, you know. So it's very important that you do things to keep the cortisol down, you know, such as meditating, breathing exercises, going outdoors and exercising, or exercising at home if you don't want to go out, and things like this. You know, I mean, we're thousands of miles away, yet here we are communicating to some extent, and you know, we've known each other through Facebook for a while, but here we are having a connection, and I think that's very important.
Of course. And you said paranoia, you know, people don't want to talk about people, you know, when it comes to mental health, one of the biggest things about it is the stigma, and nobody wants to talk about being paranoid. And I'm actually writing an article this afternoon for a woman that runs a charity on mental health. And one of the questions that she wanted to ask was, what would be one of the indicators that you would notice that you were starting to head into anxiety or depression? Now, there's a list, but one of the things that people don't necessarily realize is that when your mood dips somewhat, it makes you more prone to fixate, to almost like an OCD, like a compulsive part of it, and you start to ruminate and you start to obsessively think about, you know, something that wouldn't normally bother you, something that normally wouldn't, like for an example, we've got people on Facebook, they're now living their life through Facebook, okay? And someone puts a post up and you don't like my post, I start ruminating. Why is Santiago? Why is he not like my post? What's wrong? And I'm getting messages from people like, why did you not like my post? I'm sorry, I've been really busy. I've not noticed your post. But do you want to talk? Can we speak later on? Because I don't think this has got anything at all to do with me not liking your post or sharing your post today. So I'm walking the dog at 5 tonight. Why don't we get some time on the phone? And we start chatting and we figure out that people are starting to compulsively ruminate and give energy to things that it's just in normal life you wouldn't give a second thought to. Have I explained that?
I think that's a huge part of it. It's a very big part of it, and you're touching on a very important point, which is it's come to the point where our self-worth is determined by the number of likes we get on Instagram and Facebook. You know, our self-esteem has become so attached to it,
absolutely,
that we've forgotten to love ourselves because of who we are, not because of what people say about our posts on social media. And it's dangerous because if things drag along for longer, that could become the new normal. And I think that's not healthy. And the other thing is it makes people more radical into their ideas, and you can see with politics or religion, and everywhere in the world. I'm sure in Scotland, here in Colombia, in the US, people are so divided right now. And
Yep.
I've never noticed people paying so much attention to politics as they're doing right now. And not in a healthy way, in a very stressful, sickening, anxiety, anger-driven way. I think that's just not right.
Verging on fundamentalism.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good word for it. Yeah, fundamentalism. People are getting radicalized.
Through the division, through the split, divide and conquer. So in a roundabout way, when we look beyond the coronavirus, there's a division that's going on between people that's creating, as you said, paranoia. And you used the word social isolation is the wrong terminology, because people are taking it so literally that.
Yeah, we're so easily brainwashed. It's amazing, even though in our history how far along we've come as a species, how easy it is still to scare people and to manipulate people. And we're seeing it right now. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to say that the virus is not lethal or we shouldn't pay attention to it, because clearly it is. It's not something to laugh at or sneeze at. However, I just, when it first started, when people were, panic shopping and taking all the toilet paper and leaving, senior citizens without any groceries. And I'm just thinking, this is the 21st century. This should not be happening. We have all the information available, and yet some part of our brains is not computing it. We're just acting like primitive beings. This feels like it's the, it's the Neanderthal in us. It's not the Homo sapiens that's acting right now. And it's just insane. It's unbelievable. And that's on the other thing I always talk to people about and touch on is we have to teach people to think on their own. We have to educate people in critical thinking. I don't think our educational systems are doing that at all. I think they're doing a very, very poor job at that. They focus on teaching math and religion and biology, and that's great. But what about critical thinking? That's what we really need now. We need people to think for themselves. We need people to get educated on things like this and not believe anything that's thrown. I mean, look what's happening in the U.S. The president of the United States goes and says, drink bleach, and people drink bleach. I cannot fathom for the life of me, how can there be people who can really take that literally and do it literally? I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I think if we taught critical thinking, people would go, well, maybe that's not such a good idea, because you could die from it. So let's not even consider what he's saying. I don't know. It's just
I think that's very, very valid. And I was getting goosebumps as you were talking, because that's very aligned with my thinking as well. But, we've got a war. There are many wars going on, and we've got a war on consciousness, because at some level people don't want us to critically think. They want the lemon effect, they want the sheep, they want the masses. But then when a situation like this occurs, that mass-like hysteria and mass-like thinking shows just how much we need critical thinking, and to be able to, even people that can critically think, that I know that run businesses very well, they're still looking for the father to approve the critical thought that they've just had.
Yeah.
Or they're looking for their boss or their CEO or their MD. They're making a critical decision, but still somewhere they're looking for the MD to approve their critical thought.
Yeah. Yeah, our low self-esteem has degraded so much that we now look for approval from any source, and we get anxious when we make a decision. And fear is a part of life. I always tell people you got to get comfortable with fear and anxiety if you want to move through and you want to achieve bigger things. Anything you try something new, there's some new level of fear that's going to pop up, or some level of anxiety. If you create a new business, if you get married, if you get separated, if you have children, if you get a pet, if you move to another country, there's always going to be fear and anxiety associated with that. And it's best that you get comfortable with it, because it's not going to go away. And
Absolutely.
that's where critical thinking comes very handy, because we're teaching people, or we've been conditioned to believe that we don't have a source, a reliable source, or a leader telling us what to do, then it's not worth doing it. And what a clear example of this. Now, I would be hopeful that things will change. People would become somewhat smarter, and they would wise up, or that the economy would change. Now, if you ask me personally, I don't think that's going to be the case, because the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And with the things you're saying, seeing through the pandemic, it doesn't make me too hopeful. But the only thing I can do is change what I do, the way I think, and do the best I can, and hope that that would inspire others. Because for us who work in mental health and analyze human behavior, it's a good opportunity. This is a huge lab where we can see all kinds of behavior. But I don't know. It's too confusing.
Everything that you're saying, I agree. I align with them. I align with the majority of things that you're saying. But until society can get geared up and educated sufficiently to start dealing with the cause rather than the symptom, we're just going to keep going round and round and round. And it's like, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, I'm not pro-pharmaceutical, but somewhere there has to be a place in the middle where if you're going to use pharmaceutical medication, you still have to do the hard work that goes along with it. Because otherwise, you'll be on pharmaceutical medication for the next 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
it absolutely breaks my heart to see people that have chronic health conditions and they're still pouring half a dozen cups of coffee down their neck every day, loaded with sugar, eating cheesecakes and muffins and bread and gluten and all of these things. And you look at their pill pod and they've got 5 pills to contradict another 5 pills.
Yeah.
And it's like, when are we going to start taking personal accountability for our mental health and stop relying on over here it's the NHS, the doctors, to give us a solution?
You touched on something really important before we went live, and you said, "Is this a preview of what's to come?" And I think that's a very interesting point you're making there, in that I think Mother Nature is sending us the signs, and if we don't listen, she's gonna hone her skills and just her craft until she's gonna come up with a much worse pathogen than this one.
Absolutely.
And we're not gonna be ready for it, and we're just gonna be wiped out. I think Mother Nature is getting sick of our ways.
Absolutely.
And and if we don't change soon, I don't see humans being on the planet for much longer. Whether it's another virus,
Absolutely.
or natural disasters, or a combination of both.
Absolutely. I was out walking the other day there, Santiago. I was walking and I went, Mother Nature has put up with man killing man for so long, and really I don't think Mother Nature gives a poo about that. But when man starts killing plants, it's going to whip back, and we're there. It's going to whip back. Go ahead and kill one another, whatever, but you're not going to bury another hole in me. You're not going to destroy another 300 acres of my Amazon, of my lungs, of my earth. And it's time to look in the mirror.
Yeah, Yeah. The question is, are we going to learn from this, and are we going to be prepared to make a change? No, I'm not going to say that that's not the case. I think a lot of people are going to change, and for the better. However, I don't know if the majority of people are prepared and they're willing or even able to make that change. It's a change is really hard, and learning from this is going to take a lot of thinking. I don't know how prepared people are to do that much thinking. I want to be hopeful, but
I want to be hopeful too. Yeah. Oh man, I've so enjoyed talking with you. I really have. I'm sure
Same
people
here.
I'm sure people that are listening have learned a lot. And just I'm going to ask you one last thing before you go, because I've taken up your time. We've spoke of the problems, and we're both hopeful. What do you see as the solution?
I think that the first thing we need to do again is it's reinforce critical thinking. I think if we teach people to think as opposed to react, we will gain a lot. I think that's the most important thing, and I think people should be. I've seen touches of humanity and kindness around me that I didn't see before, and I hope that grows. I hope people become more kind, and I think we become more empathetic, and we learn to think on our own. We will come a long way. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be a 360-degree transformation, but I think it's the first step. A good first step in the right direction.
Beautiful. Wonderful. And on that note, to leave you, thank you very, very much for your time. Coming all the way from Colombia, I wish you a wonderful day. And it's a real joy to see you and speak with you. And I'm sure everyone that's listening thinks the same. So thank you very much.
Well, no, thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be on the same line with, such great minds such as Antonio and Jay and people I really look up to. And again, you've been some kind throughout the years, and, hopefully we'll meet soon face to face when all of this is over.
I hope so too. Been a pleasure. Thank you very much. All the best. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you.